They handed me divorce papers. At my father's funeral, my daughter turned away as if I was already dead to her. My son wouldn't even look at me, standing beside his mother thinking I was powerless. They believed I was too old, too broken to fight back. They thought they had won, that the family fortune, the company, everything I built over 40 years would be theirs. They thought I would walk away quietly, but they didn't know the man they betrayed. They didn't know I spent 5 years preparing for betrayal, watching, recording, waiting for them to make one mistake, just one move, that would let me take everything back. I wasn't planning to lose everything. I was planning to see who would betray me first. And they fell into every trap I set for them. They say a funeral is a time for family to come together. But as I stood under the gray Texas sky, the rain mixing with tears on my face, Linda handed me the divorce papers. She didn't even look ashamed. She just slipped the papers into my hand while whispering, "It's over." I looked at Emily, hoping to see hesitation, hoping she might remember the father who taught her how to ride a bike, who stayed up all night helping her with science projects. But she turned away, eyes cold, siding with her mother. Noah stood beside them, avoiding my gaze, clutching his phone like it was a lifeline, refusing to look at the father who once carried him on his shoulders through the county fair. I saw the look in Linda's eyes. It was victory. She believed she had won. She thought I was too weak, too broken to fight back. She thought I would leave quietly, letting them take everything. But as the rain fell on Henry Aldridge's grave, I promised myself one thing. I would not walk away. They didn't know it yet, but I had already started the war that would decide who would lose everything. I returned to my office that evening, a solid oak desk beneath my hands, the rain still dripping from my jacket. The city lights of Austin glowed below, each one a reminder of the empire I had built over 40 years. On my desk sat a black monitor showing live camera feeds I had placed months earlier. Each frame told a story Linda thought she was hiding. Her meeting with Eric at a downtown cafe only 3 miles from our home. The way she laughed, touching his arm, her smile so different from the one she gave me. I watched the footage of Emily stepping into Eric's pickup truck, a 2018 Ford F-150 with Texas plates, as he promised her a new car when she turned 18. I saw Noah accepting a brand new iPhone, worth over $1,000 from Eric, thinking it was a gift from a friend. I documented everything. Every mile they drove, every dollar they spent from accounts they thought I wasn't watching. They believed I was blind, too old to see the truth. But they didn't know that I had built my life on seeing what others missed. They didn't know the man they betrayed, and I was just getting started. I kept a leather notebook in a locked drawer hidden under a loose floorboard in my office. Every time Linda came home late, I made a note. Every dollar she withdrew, I tracked. Every mile she drove, I logged. 52 miles to a hotel outside San Antonio paid in cash. $800 spent at a jewelry store downtown. Her excuses were as cheap as the wine she spilled on our carpet. Eric was there too, leaving his pickup parked just 2 feet from hers. They thought I didn't know, but I knew everything. I even tracked the temperature in their hiding spots, a humid 80 degrees Texas heat making them careless. Emily texted Eric about a new apartment, asking if she could have her own room when everything finally changed. Noah posted photos of sneakers worth $200, bragging to his friends about gifts he said came from a family friend. They all underestimated the man they betrayed. They saw me as an old man, alone, weakened by grief, but I was documenting their betrayal piece by piece, building a case that would burn their world to ashes. And they had no idea the storm was coming. At night, I sat in my cabin 40 miles outside Austin, watching the screens glow in the dark. 14 cameras streamed live footage from our home, the gallery Linda claimed she was managing late, and the cheap motel she visited every Friday. The hard drive beside me weighed 5 pounds, holding months of betrayal in high-definition clarity. I watched Linda hand Eric an envelope, and he counted out $10,000 in crisp bills. Emily's voice messages to Eric played in the background, her asking if he would help her get into college in New York, 3 states away. Noah was photographed sitting on the curb wearing sneakers worth $250, gifts he believed were love, not bribes. The cabin was cool, 68 degrees inside, but my hands felt warm as I held my coffee, steam rising in the cold air. Each night I reviewed the footage, noting timestamps, addresses, license plates, and every careless word they spoke. Linda once said I was blind to her needs. She was wrong. I saw everything. And as the clock ticked past midnight, I decided it was time to tighten the trap. The next morning, I drove 20 miles into Austin, arriving at the office before sunrise. My building stood tall, 40 stories of glass and steel built from every dollar I earned over 4 decades. At my desk, I opened the secured laptop, weighing just under 5 pounds, and logged into the accounts Linda didn't know existed. Offshore funds protected for years held over $12 million untouched by her greedy hands. She thought she drained me dry, taking $6,000 here, $8,000 there, thinking I wouldn't notice. But I tracked every dollar she stole, noting each withdrawal in red ink on a ledger she would never see. On screen, I watched the real-time stock numbers of Aldridge Cyber Defense, waiting for the moment when Linda and Eric would try to move in. Emily messaged Eric from her iPhone asking when they could start fresh. Noah posted on social media bragging about a new pair of headphones worth $400. They thought they were preparing for freedom, for a new life. But they didn't know I was preparing too. And as I looked out at the Austin skyline, I knew the moment was close. And they still had no idea what was coming next. That afternoon, I met Kara, the private investigator I hired, in a coffee shop 6 miles from my office. She handed me a flash drive weighing less than half a pound, but inside it held gigabytes of betrayal. Photos of Linda stepping out of Eric's truck at a motel, the same motel where she spent 3 nights in a row, paying $300 in cash each time. Emails between Linda and Eric discussing how they would remove the old man and take control of Aldridge Cyber Defense. They spoke about using Emily to sway public sympathy, planning for Noah to post staged photos to make me look unstable. The temperature outside was 82 degrees, typical Texas heat, but inside that cafe it felt cold as I reviewed the evidence on my laptop. Kara's voice was calm. They're ready to make their move. They think you're too distracted to notice. I nodded, sipping black coffee, feeling the warmth against my hand. They believed I would crumble. They believed they would take everything without a fight. But they didn't understand that I had spent 40 years building this empire, preparing for storms like this. And as I closed the laptop, I knew it was finally time to pull the trigger. The next day, I walked into the boardroom on the 22nd floor of my building. The air conditioning was set at 72 degrees, but the room felt warmer as the tension built. Linda and Eric were there, acting like they owned the place, passing out folders with plans to modernize Aldridge Cyber Defense. Eric spoke about moving funds, selling off government contracts, and investing $8 million into flashy projects that would collapse within months. Linda smiled, her diamond earrings catching the light, gifts from Eric bought with my money. I let them speak, watched as they spread their lies, telling the board that I was too old, too slow to handle the changing market. I watched Emily's text pop up on Linda's phone asking if she should post the planned photos to make me look incompetent. They had it all lined up, believing this meeting would be the final step to take my company from me. But while they spoke, the cameras I had installed in the conference room recorded every word, every promise they made to each other. As Eric leaned back in his chair, confident, Linda placed her hand on his arm. They didn't know they were stepping into a trap. As they left the conference room, Linda's heels clicking against the tile, Eric gave me a smirk, the kind that thinks it's already won. I stayed seated, my hands folded, watching the recording on my phone from the hidden camera just 12 feet above the conference table. Every word, every promise of fraud, every plan to steal $8 million from the company was captured in crystal clear audio. I forwarded the file to Thomas, my lawyer, a man I've trusted for over 30 years. Thomas's reply came within minutes. "It's enough. Let me handle the rest." The air outside was 80 degrees, the Texas sun relentless as I stepped into the parking lot, but I felt cold, focused. In the distance, traffic on Interstate 35 moved slowly, drivers unaware of the storm that was about to break. Linda and Eric thought they could walk into my life, take what I built and leave me with nothing. Emily and Noah believed their mother's lies, thinking this was for the best, for a fresh start. But they would all learn that betrayal has a cost, and I was done watching from the shadows. It was time for them to pay. By the next morning, the first wave hit. Linda was served with a court summons at her gallery, a white envelope that weighed less than a pound but felt heavier than any painting she had ever seen. Eric received a call from the district attorney's office, requesting a meeting regarding financial irregularities. His confident voice cracking as he tried to sound calm. The Texas heat that day was 85 degrees, the air thick as the truth began closing in on them. At the office, I sat with Thomas, reviewing the evidence once more. The transactions, the $8 million they tried to reroute, every false signature, every text message between Linda and Eric. Emily posted on social media, "Big changes are coming," with a smile that would soon fade. Noah bragged about a new gaming laptop worth $1,500, paid for with money he didn't know was stolen. Linda tried to call me, but I didn't answer. She left a voicemail, her voice shaking as she said, "We need to talk." But there was nothing left to say. They started this. I was going to finish it. And the storm finally began. I arrived at the Travis County Courthouse just after sunrise, 12 miles from my office. The Texas air was already 78 degrees, but the breeze felt cool on my face as I stepped out of my truck. I had driven these roads for over 40 years, building a life, a family, and a company that protected thousands of homes across Texas. I thought of the mornings I would drive Emily to her high school, just 6 miles from our house, coffee in my hand, her laughter in the passenger seat. I thought of Noah sitting on my shoulders at the county fair, holding a corn dog, waving to the crowds under the hot Texas sun. All of that felt like a different lifetime now. Inside the courthouse, the air conditioning was set at 72 degrees, the humming barely noticeable as the bailiff opened the doors to the courtroom. Linda sat at the defendant's table wearing a navy dress that did nothing to hide the fear in her eyes. Her purse, no heavier than 2 pounds, sat on her lap as if it could protect her. Eric was escorted in by 2 deputies, his hands cuffed, the metal glinting under the fluorescent lights. His lawyer whispered to him, but Eric's eyes were locked on the floor, his confidence shattered. Thomas, my lawyer, stood beside me, holding a folder thick with evidence. Printed emails, transaction histories, text messages, and surveillance photos. Every dollar they stole, every mile they drove to meet in secret, every lie they whispered was documented and sealed in that folder. $8 million they tried to reroute. 40 years of work they tried to erase with a few signatures and a plan they thought was foolproof. Emily and Noah were there, sitting in the back row, dressed in muted colors. Emily's eyes were red, her hands trembling as she clutched a phone, scrolling through old family photos she had once hidden from me. Noah sat stiff, the weight of betrayal heavier on his 15-year-old shoulders than any football gear he had worn on the field. I didn't look at them directly, not yet. The judge read the charges clearly. Fraud, conspiracy, embezzlement. The word guilty echoed like thunder across the room, each syllable breaking the last pieces of the illusion Linda and Eric had built. Linda tried to catch my eyes, mouthing something, but I turned away, focusing on the American flag hanging in the courtroom, the symbol of the freedom they tried to steal, not just from me, but from our family's name. Outside, the Texas sky was clear, the sun bright as I stepped down the courthouse steps. Linda would serve her sentence, years behind cold steel bars, while Eric would face even longer for the part he played. Emily and Noah would live with the truth of their choices, learning that betrayal is not without consequence. They believed I would crumble, but I showed them that a man who has built something worth protecting will never walk away quietly, and that's how betrayal was paid in full. They thought betrayal would be easy. They thought taking what I built would break me. But in the end, they learned the truth. Linda will spend years behind cold steel bars, counting each day, remembering every lie she told. Eric will serve even longer. The price for every dollar he stole. Emily and Noah will live with the truth of their choices, realizing too late that trust, once broken, isn't easily rebuilt. I didn't just protect my company. I didn't just reclaim my fortune. I protected the name I spent 40 years building, mile by mile, dollar by dollar, day by day. I stood alone, but I stood strong, and that is how betrayal is answered. If you've ever faced betrayal from those you trusted, if you've ever fought alone to protect what matters, share your story in the comments. I read every word, and if you want more true stories of betrayal, justice, and redemption, subscribe now. Because here we don't just tell stories, we remind you that some men still stand for what's right no matter the cost.